Bitcoin is on fire. So, it never was really on fire since the last run, I do got to say. This is also an anniversary because 14 years ago today, the Bitcoin pizza guy purchased we're talking delivery pizzas.
Papa John's.
In exchange for 10,000 Bitcoin.
So yeah, today's price, it's worth $700 million for those 2 pizzas. The reason why it's a famous story is because it was like the first time people even saw that this is possible, that you can use this technology to transact. And it transacted flawlessly. So what did that guy do with the 10,000 Bitcoin? He must have sold it when it got to like $100 and taken his...
You hodled to 70,000. There's no way.
Cash.
Ladies and gentlemen, group chat.
Cash.
It's $1 trillion. Hot.
Kathy's, I'm sorry. I'm back. I know you guys are mad at me. I've seen all your DMs. I do feel kind of flattered, though, that I was so missed. But, the way that some of you choose to express yourselves is not very civil. So
but
here
that's
I
just
am.
a function of the internet, right?
Right.
No one's civil on the internet.
I'm flattered. I get it.
But,
look, I apologize. Okay.
You had 2 big events that we know of why you weren't able to record.
Yeah.
One was the famous Kill Tony show.
Yeah.
Who didn't kill you.
Clearly.
Who didn't kill me, contrary to Dee's funny humor.
Well, what's
he
it
should
like?
go on Kill Tony.
From what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, is they just have people from the stands come up and try to do a bit?
Yeah, but the only thing slightly different from what you said is they're not even from the stands because most of the people don't even buy tickets or can't afford tickets or whatever. So they literally, you put your name in a bucket and then those people are waiting outside. And
oh, no way. They're not even in the studio.
No, I mean, every now and then someone from the audience actually does it too, but that's pretty rare. So normally they're waiting outside. There's a panel. So Tony Hinchcliffe is the host. He's hilarious. And also, as you saw from the Tom Brady roast, very brutal.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole bunch of regulars. There's a band. And then usually they have celebrity guest judges, most of the time other comedians. And then, somebody comes on stage. They have a minute. They do a routine. I mean, a minute is hard for anyone, even an experienced comedian, but some people have it's their first time ever doing comedy. Some people have done it for 5 years and still are terrible. Some people are really good. And then they just pretty much roast them. I mean, they don't necessarily roast them. Some of the people they even you might have a bad set, but they like your personality. They just interview them and whatever comes out, comes out. It's pretty wild. It just feels like the Coliseum, I think it was a little tame because we went to the YouTube theater, which is a pretty big theater. Those guys are out of their normal element. So it felt a little more toned down than what you see on YouTube. But yeah, just, you feel nervous. Somebody walks up on stage and you feel nervous for them. And yeah, but it's pretty great. It was fun.
And who were the celebrity judges?
At ours, it was Adam Devine and God, I'm blanking on the other dude's name. The dude.
So YouTube Theater is right by Staples, right? The old Microsoft. Is that right?
YouTube Theater is at SoFi.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
It's at it. It's like a venue within a venue. I didn't know that either. I thought it was in Englewood, a standalone thing. It's at SoFi.
Got it. So it's a big audience because normally they do it in comedy clubs.
Yeah, they do it at Joe Rogan's Comedy Club, which is probably, I don't know,
100 people.
500 people or something at
yeah,
most.
Something smaller.
It's the big room, but I think maybe a few hundred. This was, thousands. It was a lot of people, which is cool because it was like I said, it made it feel extra risky, but I also feel like it wasn't, I feel like when they're in their normal flow at their normal place, there wasn't anything outlandish that happened, but it was fun. It was great. It was, for me, I'll be honest, a little bit of exposing my cheesiness here, but it was one of my things to do for this year. Go watch Kill Tony live. Like I made a list of things I wanted to do this year. And then they came to, I was planning on going to Austin. They came here. A friend invited me. I had to do it.
Did you meet Kill Tony?
No, I've met him before though, but no, this was pretty, like I said, that massive venue, everything's just a little different.
Well,
so yeah.
If you'd gone
great.
to Austin, I would have gone. I would have loved to see the mothership.
Well, I still want to go. So if you're interested, we should plan that because I feel like Kill Tony and like the other stuff that's happening. Like I feel like what's happening in Austin right now is like a moment in history for comedy.
Yeah.
And it seems like if you go to like Rogan's Club, like all of the best comedians in the world are just there doing like little sets. And it just seems like something that would be good to experience.
It's pretty amazing. Joe Rogan was able to transform the comedy scene from pretty much LA, New York, and made everyone stop by Austin.
Yeah, he did. And most people move there. And if you didn't move there, you're kind of out of the loop because all these people are doing podcasts there. There's all these ancillary people that aren't even comedians that have moved there because of the momentum. Yep. They're doing podcasts. It's pretty wild, but it seems to me like something that in like 10 years, 20 years, we would be like, oh, I'm glad we got to go see that like moment in time. There's always those moments in time. Sometimes like Atlanta is the hottest thing in the world for rap music or LA for whatever, or this or that. Like, I think it's like there's magic happening and you have an opportunity to see some of the greatest people in the world all in one place. So anyway, we should plan it.
And then I saw some Instagram posts from you. And since you have over 1 million followers, we can talk about it.
Yeah, I did a little peacock and, I've been really mellow on Instagram over the past couple years. And I decided to, I don't know, show off a little.
So I saw Private Jet and I saw Pebble Beach, and you can fill in the rest.
Well, I mean, that's the...
Pebble Beach, for people who aren't familiar with golf courses, is one of the most stunning pieces of property probably in the country, if not the world.
Yep. Yeah, I would say when it comes to golf, as far as my knowledge, the top of the top is a private jet to Pebble Beach. Like, I don't think you really, when it comes to golf bougie experiences, I think that's the top, at least for LA people, because it's so close. Maybe some people saying going to Augusta or something. I don't even think you can play there, but it's pretty much the bougiest of the bougie, top of the top golf lifestyle, whatever. And we did it. So this is what it was, is my cousin Rob got that trip for his dad for Christmas. So it had nothing to do with me. That was between them. He got him this luxury, amazing trip. It was his dream. It was like, once again, top level where his dad would like to play. And it just so happens that his dad loves playing with me and our friend Brian. He just loves that like foursome of me, Brian, Rob, and him. And so we just squeezed in because it made his dad's experience even better. Like it was all about his dad, and then us coming along was just better for his dad. So we went along.
You guys were accessories.
We're accessories, and we're just there to like, keep the mood up and make it fun. But I was happy to be invited on such a special thing. Yeah, we go Friday. We went Friday, flew on the plane. It takes an hour. You get there, the whole thing is just golf. Like, it's like, for anyone who golfs who hasn't been, there's sort of like, and Anand, this, there's sort of like a clubhouse like atmosphere, like of when you go hang out at a clubhouse at a country club. I would say the easiest way to describe Pebble Beach is like, it's an entire resort that feels like a clubhouse. So like, you just know that everyone there golfs. It's mainly old dudes, and their wives or whatever, their families. But everyone golfs, everything's golf. It's all this like history of golf. I don't know when Pebble Beach opened, like the 1919 or something. And Yeah, and then you go and you on Saturday we played Pebble Beach. You have caddies. It's daunting as shit. Like even on the first tee, there's just so many people watching because it's just the first tee of Pebble Beach. It's not even that crazy of a hole. It just everyone's watching. Some lady comes up and gives you a little speech about the pace of play and the blah 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 and whatever. And then you go and the course is amazing, obviously really well kept, but like not easy. There's some holes that are just absurd, like, cliffside. I definitely shot a few balls deep into the ocean. And it was great. And then Sunday we played a different course called Spanish Bay. And then came back on Sunday night.
So it is a public course.
Yeah.
So you just have to book far in advance to get a spot, right? Is there any
I think
other
you have to book a
qualifications?
minimum of 3 nights at the resort.
Okay, so it's a whole package.
Yeah, like you can't just go up and play it and come home unless, obviously, I know people who have done that playing with other people who are staying there, but you can't just pop in and play.
So obviously there's a cost barrier to be able to pay 3 nights at however much that hotel is. And I know the course is like $750 a round.
I'll tell you, we got our own rooms, obviously, and it was not cheap for what for what you get.
Right. Because it's
like you're paying
hotel,
suite prices for regular
$1,500 a night, something
beds.
like that, I'd assume.
Yeah.
So what's the demographic?
I would say mostly old white dudes.
Barrier is cost, right?
Yeah. I don't think there's any secret discrimination happening. It's mostly old white dudes, not exclusively. There's all different types, but a lot of I would say there's a little bit of everything else. But it felt very old white.
Because at one point, I don't know if they're still the owners. A Japanese group bought Pebble Beach. I don't know if they're still the owners.
That makes sense. I mean, I will say, I do want to keep it real. It didn't feel, I have definitely been to or heard of places that feel like strictly white and feel like there might be some secret discrimination happening. I didn't get that impression at all from Pebble. I just think in the US, especially in Pebble, in a place like Monterey, that's mostly the demo of that sport, of that area, of that, interest level. So it more reflected that, I would say, than anything, like I said, discriminatory. I would love to make the joke if it felt that way, but it didn't. But it did feel like, I don't know, you just kind of know, like I said, everyone golfs relatively seriously, because I don't think you're going to go there unless you're just really rich and silly. I don't think you're going to go there if you're terrible. Like if you just started golfing, like everyone there understands the etiquette. They all understand the rules. They all, they all get the whole thing. And it just feels like a massive clubhouse of everything's golf.
I will say I went to the US Open at Pebble Beach as a, just a fan, even though I'm not a fan, but whatever, you know what I mean? And it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning.
It is. It's like Malibu on steroids. Like, it's just beautiful. And it's just I don't even know how to describe. Everything's cliff and ocean. It's amazing. I get it. I mean, it's a little chilly for me as far as like, people, you definitely, as you're playing, you see all these like 20, 30, because we looked them up, $1 million houses that celebrities and people own. And most of them are people's like second or third homes. So the level of wealth is just ridiculous. But for me personally, living there, I would get stopped by like, it's so beautiful. You're on the beach, but like it's chilly and windy. And so, it's for like wine drinkers and golfers and,
Yeah, I get it.
But it's great. I mean, I feel very lucky to so early in my golf life have such a, I mean, I don't know. It's not that I was necessarily like waiting for the day I would play Pebble Beach. There's no course that I have on like my bucket list, but I would say, I don't know. I mean, I guess, like I said, Augusta is like really famous, but to me, if I could pick one golf trip, like to be the ultimate golf trip, it's that.
Yeah, because you're not, 20-year golfer trying to find the best course. This is more just relaxing and get to see the ocean and all that, right?
Yeah, plus I still kind of suck. So it's not like I know really good golfers who are like, I've watched the Masters for 10 years and I wonder how I would play on those holes.
Yeah.
I'm not like that. I'm like, shit, I just hope the caddy doesn't see me shank another ball into the ocean because, this guy's getting embarrassed. So it was great. It was really fun. I feel very lucky. I did do a little Instagram peacocking because it just was. I want to say too, like, not that I have to justify this or feel the need to, but like it just, the whole thing was so like ridiculous and cool to me that like, that's why I just leaned into it. It was like, look, like this trip is so cool, to be able to get invited to do this. I wanted to show the full thing. So, that was it. And for the record, I tried to make the pod. I landed at 7. I was going to drive straight to Wilshire, but you guys had to start early that night. So that was mutually both of our faults, Kathy's. So Jesus.
Before we get in news, the blockbuster news that everyone was waiting for was Nvidia's earnings.
Yep.
So they just reported after the bell.
Yep.
Crushed everything. Beat revenue by $1.5 billion. Gross margin 78%, operating margin 65%, beat on earnings. They raised their dividend by 150%, and they announced a 10-to-1 stock split. And the stock's up. It's up 3-4%. So, but on 2.1 trillion, 3-4% is pretty meaningful.
Right.
Like it can't go up 20% because like you can't add like $400 billion off of earnings beat.
Right,
but this company just continues to execute flawlessly.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be a good signal in terms of how investors think about technology, because if Nvidia hadn't beat, then this whole AI craze would have been subdued, being like people aren't buying the GPUs to like keep the train going. So this clearly shows that there is so much work being done in AI, and that's majority of the growth of the company. And I think it's a good sign, despite softness in other areas of the economy, that tech is kind of got its bearings back, and you can move forward from here.
Right. Yeah, I agree too. The company is so just impressive. And I also am just so curious. I was watching some of what was it, a CNBC or something today, and just like waiting to see, like, for instance, like what Apple does with Siri with AI, and what, like, there's so many little areas. They were talking about Google revamping search after all of this time. That's my biggest thing that I'm curious about, is like how all of these companies, like, we're going to have some sort of, I know there was rumors about ChatGPT and Apple doing a deal, but like, your Siri is about to be on steroids. I don't use Siri ever. But it's about to get such a juice up. I'm so curious to see how, and I don't know. I think that's the way that the most people will be most immediately affected by AI, is the way it's integrated into all of these things that we're already using.
Yeah, I think Siri is interesting because I've never seen people use Siri, and recently, even though the AI hasn't been applied, I've seen people in mid-conversation, if I said like, oh yeah, I saw this podcast, it was great, they would literally take their phone out and say, Siri, remind me in an hour to download this podcast.
Right. I wonder if that's just aware, like it's just now at the front of your mind, like, well, I guess I kind of have AI on my phone already.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Google announced a bunch of stuff in the last couple of weeks, so it's an arms race. And
yeah, it really is.
OpenAI almost tipped their hand kind of too early, and they woke up the big giants.
Yeah. I do agree with you on that, because it's funny that, like, so there was just nothing. There was I mean, I know everyone was working on this in the background, but like there was nothing. No one said the word AI before ChatGPT, and then now it's the only thing anyone's talking about. But like, where was, I don't know, you saw Google, it felt like Google got caught on their heels. It feels
Mhm.
like Apple is slow to get in the game. It just feels like, what were we all doing? And then ChatGPT is the one that just made everyone realize that it's the main thing they need to talk about.
I think it's because it's consumer facing, which
Yeah.
is the biggest difference, because AI has been running in behind all these companies for a decade, right? Like YouTube's been powered by AI, which is why you watch one video, it knows what you want to watch. Like
Yeah.
when I see my kids, my daughter watch like some silly like kids thing, it serves her another one, serves her another one.
Yep.
And if I watch like something news related, it'll be like, serve me another news related one. That's AI.
Yeah.
And it's been there forever. It's just the first time that consumers actually got to see it, kind of transparently, because people, 99% of people didn't realize YouTube was powered by AI for the last 10 years.
But also, don't these motherfuckers talk? Like, didn't everyone know that Sam Altman was working on this? Like, it just blows my mind that Google, didn't start to roll out some things, and Apple, all of a sudden Siri, I mean, has Siri gotten any better in the last 5 years? Like, no one was mentioning it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did he get away? It just seems like all these guys talk and know each other. Elon was so involved in the start of it. Like, everyone knows.
And they all go to the same conferences. They're all in Davos. They're all at the Allen and Co. conference, and I think it's in Montana or Wyoming or one of those places.
Right.
So I'm
It's
sure it was
crazy.
discussed for years.
Yeah. It's like maybe they just didn't understand.
It's a great point. It's a great point you made, that everyone was effectively asleep at the wheel until ChatGPT came out.
Yeah. It's so crazy. But you see during our earnings time.
Meta's launching like a whole AI initiative now. He has like a whole board that he just hired, that are going to oversee his AI initiatives. And two of the four that off the top of my head is one of the Collison brothers, who is founded Stripe, and Toby Lutke, who started Shopify. So he's bringing all the, big heavy hitters in too, to help him with AI. And WhatsApp has AI right now all of a sudden. Do you think it was just all being worked in the background and they were like, we don't know when we should release it, we don't want to cannibalize our core businesses? And then ChatGPT came out and everyone had no choice and said, oh yeah, we have all this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me, unless there was the only thing that makes sense to me is if there was a fear of like public perception, that people were going to think you were spying on them, or AI is scary, or they were standoffish because of how it would be perceived. But that doesn't really make sense. It's just, how does it go from none of these companies innovating in this area to all of a sudden, like all of a sudden, when I see like all of a sudden the search bar on Instagram and Facebook and everything is patched into their AI, it's like, that's like I don't know, it feels like kind of a rushed move just to say, yeah, we have AI too, and obviously they're gathering data and all that stuff, but like, I don't know. It's just, how is there nothing? How is there no talk? Nobody said the word Siri for the last 5 to 8 years. And now the main question on Apple's earnings is going to be, what's going on with AI and Siri?
But don't you think that's the beauty of technology companies, especially big tech? So if you take the analogy from 20 years ago, brick and mortar retailers saw e-commerce start growing.
Yeah.
But they were like, nope, we don't need to do it. We don't need to do it. Our stores are going to be just fine. And then all these e-commerce companies started coming. Amazon started growing fast, and then they did nothing. Yeah. And a lot of them went bankrupt because of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's true.
The big tech knows AI is like, okay, fuck, Sam is 2 steps ahead of us.
Yeah.
I don't care if it cannibalizes our search revenue in the near term, but in the long term, if we don't do this, we're extinct.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. They don't sit They don't sit, but it's just when you think about people like Google, really to me, Google and Apple, everyone already has your phones. And Google, everyone else who doesn't have Apple phones has your phones, and your whole business is search. And it just blows my mind that, once again, maybe they just kept it really secret. I don't know, but that seems hard to believe. How do you get all the way to actually launching a product with ChatGPT before any other company has even mentioned the words, the letters AI? It's just, that's pretty wild. But yes, you're right. At least they're all jumping on it really quick. Anyway, super interesting. Okay, let's talk about news. You want to talk about some news?
Yeah, let's
some
do it.
more news. Here's an interesting one. I didn't really realize. I know we've talked a little bit about this. The change in fast food prices.
Yep.
We have talked about it, but with inflation and with these different things, I didn't realize the extent of how much prices have changed and how many items. And you have this kind of list here of changes from 2019, which I hate to say it, but 2019 doesn't feel that long ago. I think partly because of COVID. But since 2019, I mean, this is pretty insane.
Yeah, so McDonald's price increases across, their signature items, the Big Mac, McNuggets, cheeseburger, fries, up 141% in 5 years.
Right. I mean, a cheeseburger is up 215%.
That's wild. French fries are up 134%. Isn't the whole McDonald's thing a cheeseburger and fries?
Yeah, and I thought like the dollar menu was like the thing, I guess that's just gone.
And it happened kind of quietly because I don't think anyone was talking about this even 2 years ago. No. So let's say 2 years ago it was like 70% increase.
Yeah. Yeah. No one was talking about it. I think it's just the inflation talk, and like that. Obviously, everyone was just rolling in money from 2019 to 2022. Yeah. And this is before inflation. This isn't just inflation. This isn't like in the last year or two. This is over a period of time. So I just wonder what the strategy was here, or like.
I think it's labor wages, insurance is a big driver of this.
Yeah.
Because they have to be profitable. These are mostly franchises. So just to round it out, Taco Bell's across their signature items up 57%, and Chick-fil-A's up 80% off their signature items. Those are meaningful increases, especially given, I would say, the customer at McDonald's is generally, a higher income person will maybe treat themselves once in a while to McDonald's, so they're less price sensitive. Right. But most of the people that are going to McDonald's and Taco Bell are looking for a deal. Right.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I think when you put inflation on top of that, it's just crazy, man. When you put inflation on top of that, on groceries, let's say, then you put interest rates for things like if you wanted to buy a house. It's a pretty brutal world out there. Like if you're trying to like get in the game, maybe get a house, get your groceries, start a family, it's a lot different. I know people have been saying that. Some people might hear me say that and say, yeah, no shit, dude. But like, it's even your McDonald's went up 3x.
When we played youth sports, the whole team would go to McDonald's or one of these franchises.
Yeah.
And then with parents, you're talking like there's 30 people. What are they going to spend? Like $500?
Yeah. They're not doing that anymore. We did that too. And there's no way. When it was $3 a person, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now it's $12 per person. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I do think there's a lot of, I say this too much, but I think there's a lot of pain that's being also like covered up because it's election time, and it's just not a good time to talk about maybe how bad certain areas are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear. The only data point is unemployment's at an all-time low, so people are just extending credit. That's it.
Right.
That's the only explanation why the economy is still roaring.
Right.
I have
Okay.
a good anecdote
Yeah.
on luxury. A person we both know extremely well was at Chanel
Okay.
yesterday, and there was a whole room within Chanel. This is off Rodeo in Beverly Hills, so like one of the flagship stores.
Yeah.
40% off.
Really?
And the salesperson said it's the first time we've had a sale in 3+ years. And in peak 21, 22, I remember a friend trying to get his wife a bag, and you need an appointment to even get in the store. And appointments weren't even available for weeks on end.
Right. I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. So there's cracks happening at the high
I agree.
end, at the low end.
I agree.
A store
I think,
Rodeo being on sale,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
and with like full travel, there's no excuses anymore.
Mm-hmm. The one other good takeaway was I was told there were a lot of Chinese consumers, which I haven't seen in Beverly Hills in a long time.
Right. They weren't allowed, and now open it up. But it's just funny that even with all of that, there's still these sales. Yeah, I just think, I mean, look, we were in a recession last year, and they changed the definition.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I saw a stat: 57% of America thinks we're already in a recession. So that should tell you how people feel about their
Right.
spending ability, discretionary income, savings, credit card debt, all of
Well,
it.
let's talk about how people feel. Our friend, Mr. Exits,
Mr. Exits, yeah.
a multiple time visitor on the pod, posted this tweet that says, "This is how societies collapse." It's a comparison of feelings or values from different generations. So it's between Generation Z, which is ages 18 to 26, and baby boomers, which is 59 to 77. On the scale of patriotism, how important is patriotism? Gen Z says 32%, baby boomers 76%.
I wish we could have done like what's the Steve Harvey show where they have to guess?
Right. The Family Feud. Belief in God or religion. I'll go the other way. Baby boomers, 65% think that it's very important. Gen Z, 26%. How important is having children? Baby boomers, 52%. Gen Z, 23%. And with the statement, America is the best place to live, 66% of baby boomers agree. Only 33% of Gen Z.
I wish I could do a follow-up with people who say the 33% and what they think the alternative is better, where to live. Just because I know they're not well traveled.
Right. I have one other big thing. You're right. And then also, I wonder if the baby boomers felt this way when they were the age of the Gen Z. Like, is this just a young feeling thing?
Well, I guess like the 60s, I would say it probably be pretty similar when the Vietnam War was going on.
So that's why I don't think it's that alarming. I understand that I do think regardless, there's obviously a sentiment that things are moving in that direction, not the other direction. But that is one thing. I think if you interviewed a bunch of hippies during Vietnam who are now baby boomers, they would have been like, peace and love, no religion, no babies, no whatever. So
yeah.
I don't think it's the end of the world, but I do think it's moving that direction.
I think that's a good way to frame it, because in wartime, I think patriotism typically picks up, even though we're not in the war, it's Ukraine. So I guess maybe that's different. Because I would say if you were to poll people in 2002, right after 9/11, I bet you patriotism would have been like 75% for Gen Z.
Right. But that's like, I would say that's probably the same after Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
But then other than that, probably very rare. Like we are not attacked. We were attacked on our soil and innocent Americans were killed. That's even different than being at war in another country. And I don't know. I'm really big right now. And actually, this is going to be my content recommendation, but because I have this book on it, and I'm really big on, I think a large part of the problem is just like too much access to information. Like people are you just read this shit all day long and you're like, oh, society's collapsing. Kids don't even care about blah, blah, blah. But like during Vietnam, like we talked about when my dad was on, like there were protests specifically at Kent State University where kids were shot and killed.
Mm-hmm.
If that happened today, if there was an anti-war protest and a kid or multiple kids were shot and killed by the authorities, there would be nationwide outrage. Like it would be insane. And so these things have happened, and people have been anti these things when they're young and they're 20 years old and whatever. Sometimes I feel like the real problem is just the echo chamber of how bad everything is too accessible. You know, you can sit on Twitter all day long and be convinced that society is collapsing when really things have never been better. And if we had social media and video feeds and TikTok during the Iraq War, or God forbid, Vietnam or World War II or these different things, the shit we would have seen was insane. And Joe Rogan would be saying the Vietnam War we shouldn't be there. It was a false flag. It was the
military industrial complex, all that stuff.
The CIA.
I mean, you do change as you get older. Like I see myself changing on my own interests. Like I don't like rap music the way I liked it 20 years ago.
Yeah, same. I listen to mostly podcasts now, which is weird. Like I thought about that the other day. I was like, damn, I'm getting old.
Yeah, I mean,
I used to not be able to wait for whatever new album was coming out.
And you just see the violence in rap, and I'm just like, this is kind of stupid. Think about how many rappers have been killed in the last like 4 or 5 years.
Right. You know what is funny that changes as you get older is like, you know how when we were young, like we would hear things like video games and rap music are to blame for like poisoning the minds of the youth. And you're like, shut up. Like, fuck you adults. We're not fucking. And then as you get older, you're like, there's something to this.
There's definitely something to it. Think about how many kids do Percocet and Molly because of rap.
Yes. I mean, I bet you the amount of kids that do Xanax, Percocet, Molly because of their favorite rap songs is probably staggering. I mean, look, when you see kids walk around, especially because we were in this industry for so long, we know how much one person wearing a certain shoe or a hoodie affects the sales of that item. And you go to a trade show or you go to a festival and everyone's wearing that shoe or that hoodie. You don't think that's also happening with fucking Xanax and Percocet?
Of course it is. I mean,
of course. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, because we say it about TikTok. I think everyone kind of can admit it about TikTok. Like, oh, it's such bullshit content. How come China, their algorithm is science and achievements and ours is this? They're trying to poison us. But like, we don't look at the ways we do it to ourselves a little bit.
That's a fair point.
Okay, can you tell me, this is your zone because you're the sports guy. There's this quarterback recruit, Jaden Rashada.
Mm-hmm.
And he now has filed a lawsuit against the University of Florida for what happened. He was kind of promised and strung along that if he went to the University of Florida, he would get a bunch of money now that these NIL he could get these deals and blah, blah, blah. And then that fell through and it kind of sabotaged his career or am I close?
No, you're kind of close. So this kid was one of the star high school players in the country.
Yep.
Every college wanted him. This is where it's going to be tricky for college sports. And I just want to think about it from the business standpoint. Like, forget like actual play. This kid claims he was promised $13 million to go play for the University of Florida.
Really? But that money would have come through deals?
Come through boosters, deals,
like
various companies, endorsements, car dealerships, like who knows, right?
But someone gave him the number 13 million, he's saying.
Someone gave him the number 13 million. Apparently they defaulted, I think, on the first payment, which was like $1 million. And then he kind of caught wind, like, okay, none of this is going to happen. So he now is at University of Georgia. I just don't know how college sports navigates this, because these numbers are big now. 13 million. He's a high school kid. It's not like he's Caleb Williams, who everyone knew was the best player in the country.
Yeah.
And he can command, these large deals.
Yeah.
Because he's already proven. This kid may come in and not be good, and he thinks he's going to make $13 million.
Right. What I don't get is like how, so this is my lack of knowledge is going to show here, but like, is a school allowed to, they're not allowed to directly pay a kid to play,
they have to find boosters that are willing to pay. So it can't come from the university's bank
booster
account.
is like a donor.
Right.
And so so the donor would pay him, like, if, what would the donor say they are paying him for?
So it could be anything. It could be like, hey, can you be on this billboard and push my product?
Right. So this is kind of like probably some shifty conversations that are happening, which is essentially the university acting like they're paying. I mean, if you strip it all the way down, this kid probably felt like, I'm going to get paid $13 million to go play for this school.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the school can't pay him directly to do that, they're piecing together and guessing how much money he could make. And they're telling him that number to incentivize him to come, right?
Yeah. So that's the gray area. Who's the one communicating it to him?
Right. And how is it being communicated? Because to a high school kid, you
you
if you
realize
just
the
text
majority
him.
of NFL players don't make $13 million.
Right. 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 And so you can't send him a contract that says $13 million in exchange for 4 years. So you're texting this high school kid saying, hey, bro, it's like
John
$13
from
million.
the Toyota dealership's good for $250.
Right.
The whatever chain restaurant in Florida is, they'll give you $500K. Like, you piecemeal it together. That's what's going on.
And you're guessing that all of those people will follow through on their commitments. This kid comes in and tears an Achilles. John from Toyota is not forking over his $250.
Exactly. And
oh man.
And
so
I'm
what's he suing? So he's suing the school, or
he's suing the school
to say like, hey, look,
you guys
promised me this.
And so who knows what? I mean, maybe he has a trail that it came from the coach, the whoever runs the program,
right?
And if it's not from a booster, because the way I understand it, it has to come from the booster to the player.
Right. God, that's funny. Yeah, you're right. This is a whole new, like, we heard about like, yay, college athletes are finally getting paid. This finally makes sense. All is right in the world. But you don't understand like how it opens up a whole new realm of also funny business. And this is the first big lawsuit in this type of area, right?
And then how do you prevent the University of Florida, who makes a fortune off football, give $5 million to booster,
right,
in some sort of grant, and then that money goes, so the paper trail is different,
right? Yeah, that's pretty wild. I didn't think about how the schools could sort of hack this system to get the key players.
Yeah.
Because when there's no money being exchanged, everyone's on a level playing field for recruiting, meaning you're just going to go to the best school with the highest chance of winning, or, whatever. It's just going to be like
everyone was getting paid for decades.
Right.
So that's not new. It's just now it's just more transparent and the numbers are way bigger.
Yeah.
So like 20 years ago, Reggie Bush was basically blackballed from college football for I think about $300,000-$400,000 in payments, and he was arguably one of the greatest football players in college of all time. So what would
you're
he
talking
command
about
today?
13 million, right?
20.
I mean, 30 million to that guy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, well, this is going to be interesting. This could affect. Look, I think anytime such a big like thing is opened up, such as players being able to be paid, it has to work itself out. This is part of it working itself out, but I don't know. Hopefully this kid has some good proof.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds.
How about this unfolding? Bitcoin is back to on fire. So, it never was really on fire since the last run, I do got to say. It was up in the 70K range, like in March, which was all-time highs. And then, all-time highs?
All-time high was 73,000 for Bitcoin.
In March,
I just
right?
don't know what the time was.
Okay, so roughly March. Yeah, 73 was March 13th. So a lot of people got in then. This is also right around when all of these ETFs started happening and all that stuff. Once again, it did not by any means collapse. It went down to 58. It looks like May 1st. So no big deal. That's not nearly as far down as it has went before. Now it's starting to climb again. Today, as of this recording, we're at 69,246. We've already broken 70 in the last couple of days. So, I mean, we're back. It does feel to me, this is not financial advice, and Anand, you can weigh in too if you agree or disagree, but it feels a little bit more stable this time because of all of these ETFs and all the money that has went into it, and I think when you first saw these ETFs launch, you saw a lot of big people sell that had just held on to it for so long, and this is your opportunity, so take your cash off the table. But it's a good time for Bitcoin. And here's just the last little thing I wanted to say. This is also an anniversary because 14 years ago today.
Before you give the blockbuster story that if you didn't follow Bitcoin, you might not know, I want to say in my not financial advice segment, when Bitcoin was at 35,000 and BlackRock announced they're announcing an ETF and they'd filed. And I said, this might be the most obvious trade. And that was like 7 months ago.
Right. You were right.
So if you missed it at 16K, if you missed it at 10K, if you missed it at 1,000, you still had a chance at 35,000 to 2x your money.
Right.
But go on.
And to your point, you were right. I'll give you that. And also to your point, not financial advice, but we're still so early.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's still like these ETFs, if you want to even bet on that for kind of some security, which I do, meaning like it feels a lot safer now that these institutional people are involved. But it's still early days when it comes to the amount of people that even have Bitcoin in their portfolios or in their retirements or in their, whatever. I talked to my financial guy the other day, and even he was like, oh, it'll probably be like a couple years before we recommend people allocate some of their portfolio to Bitcoin. Right now, we will do it, but we have to warn them of the risk. We don't recommend it. And so still super early. Anyway, not financial advice, but here's the thing. There's a famous story 14 years ago today, the Bitcoin pizza guy. This is a famous story in the history of Bitcoin. There's a few stories like this. This one's really well known, but could be new to you if you're new to Bitcoin. The Bitcoin pizza guy purchased 2 pizzas, like delivery. We're talking delivery pizzas.
Papa John's.
Papa John's, of course, in exchange for 10,000 Bitcoin.
So yeah, today's price, it's worth $700 million for those 2 pizzas.
So those were two $700 million pizzas. That is insane.
I want to know two different things. What this guy's up to now, because he's got to be like, hopefully at 100,000 Bitcoin, because the 10,000 Bitcoin when he bought the two pizzas reflected $41.
Right. He must have, right?
I hope so.
I mean, what if he had like, what if
11,000 Bitcoin?
12,000? Oh no. This guy has to be rich.
The reason why it's a famous story is because at the time, 14 years ago, I know we have a lot of younger people. It was like the first time people even saw that this is possible, that you can use this technology to transact.
Right.
And it transacted flawlessly.
Right.
The delivery guy got 10,000 Bitcoin, or whoever delivered the pizza. So what did that guy do with the 10,000 Bitcoin?
That's what else I want to know. That's what I want to know.
He must have sold it when it got to like $100, right? And taking
Must have. There's no way you hodled. You hodled to 70,000. There's no way. I want to know, man. Go ahead. You go.
No, I just think I feel bad for both parties because I guarantee neither of them are worth over 100 million via this transaction. Maybe they have separate businesses now that got them there.
Right.
And the other thing I want to note is I actually know like a friend from college who was mining Bitcoin at his like law firm or something because he got super into it. Yeah. And this is when Bitcoin was like $1, sub $1. And he lost his fucking computer. He just got rid of it. And then when Bitcoin took off, he realized it was all on the hard drive and it'd be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's like in the ocean now.
There is so many of those stories.
There's 21 million Bitcoin that will be mined. 3.5 to 4 million are in the ocean.
That's just crazy. I bet you, I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll hear some of them and most of them we never will. But like, there's some crazy Bitcoin stories out there, just of like this, or someone who lost, $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, or someone who got in and hodled, or I don't know, but it's just, there's so many of these stories.
And the early exchanges, to be very because I just was following it back then, before Coinbase existed, there's so many exchanges that just got hacked. So you might have had 1,000 Bitcoin and it just disappeared, but you didn't think anything of it because it was worth 50 cents a coin. You're like, I lost $500.
Right. I bet you there's some hackers that made some money.
And there's still hackers on all these meme coins. I know stories of people that are just getting swiped so easily because their MetaMask isn't secure. It's not on an air-gapped laptop, all these different things. So if you're going to play in that meme coin game, you better have your security on lock because it is so easy to just lose everything.
Right. Okay. Well, that is financial advice. One more story before we get to winners, losers, and content. These GLP-1 drugs are just taking over. I mean, it's all anyone's talk. It's really AI. We've joked about this before, but AI and GLP-1 is really the story of America at the moment. So we're seeing a bunch of different things. A lot of people are talking about the way that it is already affecting, but going to affect the junk food market in particular. So probably all food, really, but especially junk food and snacks and things like that. In order to get ahead of that, Nestlé is launching a frozen food brand that is specifically aimed at people taking these GLP-1 drugs. What have you read about this? Like, what does that mean? How are you targeting?
So they posted it on, I think Forbes Instagram posted this article. Actually, shout out to Helen. She sent it, old Ghost employee. Nice. And the only thing, they don't give details of what the frozen food's going to be. It just has to be smaller portions, right? Because isn't the whole point of these drugs? You just eat less?
Yeah. That's what I can't wait to hear, because you're right.
Like instead of 5 chicken nuggets, you get 3?
Right. It's got to be. Or little baby nuggets. Because I don't understand. I'm trying to see in the
I think
comments.
this is actually like similar to the AI conversation we had. Nestle knows Ozempic is an existential threat to most of their products.
Yeah.
And that everyone, like Nestle is one of the biggest food manufacturers in the country / world. And they already know, like, if once everyone gets on this, no one's just getting the big extra bag of Doritos.
Right. Yeah, I'm so curious. And I'm also just curious on a bigger level how this is going to affect. I mean, they're saying that there's some, well, from what I've seen, maybe this is further along than when I saw it, but like people who were unable to get pregnant are getting pregnant. I'm sure
there is anecdotes of that, but I don't know if it's like proven at scale.
Exactly. And then like, I'm sure that the amount of people like, I don't know, buying bikinis or like going to the beach or like I just, how does this affect? It's going to affect us so heavily. It's really, really interesting to see how this is going to play out.
And then once the muscle building pill comes, who goes to the gym?
Right. Yeah. Why even go? You get the bone density pill and the muscle building pill and just fucking strap on your VR goggles
and eat baby nuggets.
And eat little baby nugs. Yeah, you're right. That's our future. Fine.
Yeah, there are so many like secondary and tertiary effects of this that the swimsuit one's a good one.
Right.
People just feel more comfortable in
they must
bikinis and more showing off more and bare midriff clothing,
crop tops,
tank tops.
Yeah, they must. It must. I really feel like it's gonna slowly shift a lot of things.
Like athleisure could get a boost because I still think if you have to be a little on this like svelte side for that to be kind of
definitely do
glamorous
flattering at all. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see. Maybe just do that and then get your AI girlfriend, and you don't even need to leave your house.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
going to want to now that you're skinny and having babies. I don't know. This is crazy.
Maybe outdoor activities go up because people feel more confident. They don't want to stay.
Pickleball. Go long pickleball. Okay, let's do winners, losers, and content. Who's your winner for the last week?
My winner is the NBA, a blockbuster $7 billion per year rights deal. For context, the NFL is at $10 billion. We know the viewership of the NFL. We know the viewership of the NBA. It's a fraction of it. I don't know how this got bid up so high.
Right. And how does that affect? Does that affect anything?
Yes.
Does that affect pay?
Yeah, it affects the players. Like, so now if you have a supermax contract, so if you're Giannis in 3 years or whenever the rights deal kicks in, he can make $95 million a year just on his playing contract.
Right. There we go.
Think about that.
That's
players
crazy.
Making $95 million a year, and then they don't even want to play. They sit out, load management.
Yeah.
Don't play in February. Don't play in March. I think it's going to, even though they deserve, because the rights deal is the players and owners split the money.
Yeah.
And so the owners get their piece, the players, get their piece via the salary cap. And if the rights deal is this, the rights deal is that. But then from the fans' perspective, they're going to see players making $95 million a year and they're not playing. What does that do to the sport?
Right. I just love it. I just love sports are just, especially in an era where TV programming sucks, all these shows or media channels or all these kind of staple things that we've had for so long just are not doing well, but sports are just on fire. They just can't lose.
So it must be that because it's like Disney, NBC, Amazon, one other network that's basically splitting up, and ESPN, that's splitting up these $7 billion. So I think ESPN is paying like $2.5 billion. Someone else is paying $2.5 billion, and it adds up to the $7 billion. Do they believe that it's just impossible to find the next Succession, the next Euphoria, and the only way to get subs and viewers is live sports.
I just feel like every time you bet on a Succession or a Euphoria, you're taking a bet and you don't know. Like it could just totally flop. Like the guy who did Euphoria made that show with The Weeknd that I don't know how the
flopped.
ratings were, but like, yeah, like
they canceled it, right?
Yeah, they canceled it and the results, the online response was pretty terrible. And so that's about as safe as a bet as you could make. And you took an L. So the fact that it's something you can count on every year, I just think makes it so valuable. Because what else can you count on in that world?
Yeah, even though the average NBA game is probably like Sans playoffs, like 1.5 million viewers, 1.2 million.
Right.
It's
but
not
still,
like,
think about it in terms of how many seasons of the NBA have, been on ABC. Whatever. What's that?
I mean, I guess the NFL only being, slightly higher at this point. I'm sure their next deal will be bigger. It's just like there's 18 weeks, 17 weeks versus, 82 games.
Right.
So when you pay it off per game, it doesn't look as similar, but still. Yeah. I mean, when the NFL gets 25 million viewers, like on a random Sunday night game.
Yeah. It's just crazy when you think about it, like even Euphoria or Succession, right? Like Succession, who knows? Let's say it got 3 million views an episode.
You think that's it?
I do. But I don't, can we look that up? I don't know how to look it up. I mean, maybe I'm off, but even if you said 5 on a regular episode, that'd be pretty crazy.
It says the Succession finale was 2.9 million viewers.
Yeah. Okay, so you were dead on right. And that was the finale.
Right, that's the finale. So you're talking 1 million or 800 or 900,000 week to week. So think about it. 1 million, let's say, week to week. You get, 12 episodes a season, and then it's over. When you think about all the games and how long a season goes now compared to like a TV show, I mean, and the fact that there's a built-in audience, there's fans, there's people who are definitely going to watch it every year. It's just there's nothing else that can match that from like a safe bet perspective.
And the number of commercials you get to run because it's a 2.5 hour to 3 hour game.
Right.
Even for those 1.5 million people. You're getting commercials every 5 minutes.
Yep. And so many games. Like, I think when you compare it against other sports, it's interesting, like NFL versus NBA. But when you compare sports against any other television programming, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. I mean, Netflix
year
paid
after year after
150
year.
million for the Christmas games.
Right.
For NFL. 2 games.
Yeah.
75 million apiece.
I can't believe Netflix is doing this Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight.
When's that?
I don't know. I think June. Yeah, June. It's such fuckery. I'm not really, I'm going to watch it, but I haven't really seen the press. Okay. My winner, I'm a little outdated here, but I've been gone. My winner is Kendrick Lamar. As much as I, am a Drake fan, Kendrick Lamar draked Drake, meaning he put out his diss song and it went number 1 on Billboard. And that song, anytime you hear it, or if they play it out or at the gym or everybody reacts. Everyone goes crazy. And to do that as your chess move, especially because we live in LA. So in LA, it's extra rowdy when that song comes on. But man, he just knocked it out of the park. So that was my winner.
Yeah.
Who's your loser?
My loser is the Florida man. So some real estate news came out because everyone said everyone's moving to Florida. Real estate's through the roof. That's all we've heard the last 3 or 4 years. The inventory growth in 4 of the biggest cities in Florida. So basically what's available. It's 70% increase in Tampa, 64% increase in Orlando, 59% increase in Jacksonville and 58% in Miami. So that means there's tons of homes that aren't being able to be sold, which means prices are going to come down pretty significantly.
Right. Well, I think maybe we got a little over our skis.
Mm-hmm.
And we were very excited about Florida. But it's hot. It's summertime. And it's just too hot for the summer.
It's humid.
And we like where we're at.
You might catch a hurricane or a tornado.
You might catch a hurricane. Look, what's funny is I talked to my cousin in Ohio, Gary, who we all love, the other day. And he was saying, now, keep in mind, I'm sure that this number can be relatively small and still have an impact on the area where I grew up because it's a very small area. But he was saying that there's like noticeably, more and more people moving from cities and things like that, especially to places like Columbus, where there is like, quite a bit of normal life there. But still, like, there's some guy developing these like luxury houses where I'm from on a golf course. And there's all this, and there's just like, I don't know, I just feel like similar to almost like how we talked about with the Ozempic shakeup. Like, I do feel like COVID shook up a lot in where people are living, and it seems to be kind of maintaining. I mean, obviously Florida isn't quite getting everything they expected, but it's interesting to me, the amount of people kind of reevaluating Austin. We talked about Austin. Where to live.
Columbus is definitely a big boom town, right? Like, things are bustling.
I would say the best place to move in Ohio would be Columbus.
Yeah.
It's the most like...
It feels like a metropolitan city.
Yeah, and you can also very easily feel like you're in, West Virginia. Like, it's not crowded, but it's still pretty modern.
I remember when D went, he was able to get like vegan food and like,
definitely.
Vegan stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. And there's a lot of big companies there. Losers. Oh, my loser. You guys probably talked about this. Old P. Diddy.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I mean, the guy just, what's funny is I thought that I really started to feel like this stuff might somehow blow over. Like, I thought he might have weaseled out of it. But man, when that video came out, and I don't know what happens because the DA is saying, it's past the statute of limitations, at least in California. I don't know how that affects his federal case, but either way, I mean, the guy's just fucked. That video. Oh,
you think there's a federal case? I thought he was scot-free from that one incident. I know there's like millions.
Well, it was the feds that raided his houses. So they are building a federal case, which is why you would raid. And yeah, so I don't know enough about this shit to know how that affects. But either way, I mean, I'm sure like another girl came out from some MTV modeling show. I'm sure a lot more people. I'm sure whatever they're building as far as a case. But God, when it comes to that video, the thing is, through all this process, we had never seen any proof. Like the public, we had just heard stories and there's lawsuits and whatever. But geez, that video was terrible.
I would say from a career's perspective, it's over.
Yeah.
I just don't know how the law works with all these different incidents and what the federal statute of limitations is versus what the statute of limitations are in California.
Right.
He's clearly an awful person doing horrific and terrible things.
Right.
And I hope there's justice for all the victims, to be honest.
Right. And you would think, though, that like that one producer who came out with a lawsuit about like him shooting a guy in a bathroom and all that stuff, that was all pretty recent. So I just feel like, look, if the feds show up at your door because you were a witness to something and you see the video, you see all these lawsuits, someone's going to talk. Like, I just feel like they're going to build.
I mean, being out in LA and some of the people we know, we've been hearing it. We saw it firsthand with Amanda.
Yeah.
But it was always bubbling that he's doing really terrible things.
Yeah.
And even like his bodyguard, I got served a bunch of TikTok clips over the last few years that he was exposing all this stuff too.
Yep.
And so it's like the worst kept secret that this stuff was going on.
Yeah.
But clearly he was being protected.
Yeah. Yeah, but also you got to think.
The last episode, Zach was on, and he believes he's just an FBI CIA asset.
Yeah. I'm not mad at that theory. I mean, you got to think when Obama was running, like one of the main people they went to was Diddy to help. And you got to think that gets you some really important numbers on your speed dial to make some things go away. I mean, I'm really not trying to say like, I'm not taking the CIA. I like it. I would love to find out that that's the case. That would be the highlight of my, whole thing. But I'm just saying you gotta kind of be able to call in some favors when Obama actually ends up becoming Obama. Like imagine Obama's just some senator that no one really knows and they call P. Diddy and he's the big shot. And then he becomes Obama. It's like.
Because in 2008, when Obama won, some of these lawsuits are from like 2003, 2004. So the industry knew this was all going on.
Yeah. And you got to think like at that level, the stuff people will do just because they just assume you're cool with Obama, whether it be like the chief of police or the whatever.
Studio head.
Yeah, the studio
Who's
head.
The studio head?
Yeah. The security at the fucking hotel. I mean, pretty wild, but I don't know. I think
Epstein
it's over.
just puts everything on the table. I can believe anything. The fact that existed.
Right. I agree. Totally agree. Okay, content. You got any content recommendations?
It's not technically a recommendation because it was complete chaos and I had to turn it off. Terrence Howard on Joe Rogan.
I couldn't even go down that. Yep. Yep.
I tried to. The first 10 minutes, he said we have to reimagine the periodic table, and I don't know what his background is, but he spoke with such confidence, naming chemicals and elements, and the fact that he even knew all that, I was like kind of impressed. But if you just want complete fuckery, the Terrence Howard.
I like it. I mean, I saw a couple clips, and I just couldn't even. The clips were great and so entertaining, but I was like, man, I can't do this for 3 hours. This is
maybe
wild.
Just do the clips then, because the clips are pretty funny.
Yeah, dive in. I mean, it's
like, I got through 10 minutes.
Now that he's on YouTube, you can see the views, and that episode is like 3 times the views that like a normal episode would have during this time.
Yeah,
like it was
Cat
last
Williams,
week. It's at 4 million or something.
Cat Williams on Shannon Sharp's YouTube channel.
Yep.
I think it's at least 3 weeks ago, 51 million views.
That's insane. Yeah. People love, I mean, I'll tell you what, I guess we always have, but like people love
nonsense.
Some like shit isn't what it seems content. Let me tell you the real deal. They love that.
Hey, Cat Williams was right on Diddy.
Yeah,
1 month earlier.
It was. Okay, content is the book I talked about. It's called Factfulness. It's by Hans Rosling. And it's not, I'm not saying it's the greatest book ever, nothing like that, but it is. And it also is not going to completely solve this thing for you. But I just read it and it is good. It's very interesting. And it's about how much better things are than how we talk about them and why we have these biases, why we think that things are so terrible all the time. And it's just, once again, it's not a game changer. It's just, it's a good read for all my readers out there that'll be kind of a little bit of a contradictory feeling to all the doom and gloom on social media. So that's it. It's funny. I'm sure it's like the same 3 people, but like I get DMs like about give us more book recommendations. We want more books. I'm sure it doesn't represent a very large portion of the audience, but for my reading audience out there, there you have it. Maybe once a month I'll toss a book in my content recommendation.
Did I tell you I saw D reading a book at the office?
Yes. And I was dumbfounded. This guy, who has he become? Okay. Oh, shout outs. What do we got? Okay. From an anonymous Kathy. Shout out to my husband and I. We're OG Kathys in our early 20s. Wow. Who decided to quit our fancy corporate jobs next month to dive full into real estate investing while becoming digital nomads and travel the world. Hide my name, please, in case my boss listens.
So
wow.
OG Kathy's early 20s,
I know.
7 years. So
that's why I
like
paused.
14 years old.
That's why I paused, because not only are they married, but they're OG Kathys. So they've been listening since they were 14 and they got married at 18. You guys are early.
They should go pick up some cheap real estate in Florida. I just gave them the data.
There you go. It's not financial advice, but check it out. And yeah, I mean, look, you guys are obviously early on everything. Marriage, listening to group chat. So maybe you're early on, this next chapter of your life. I'm sure it'll be great. Congrats to you guys. Okay. And then from Nicole, I want to shout out my husband, Dwight, on another successful year of coaching. His team is conference champions for the first time in program history. Continue to follow your passions. You never know where coaching can take you. I'm so proud of all you have accomplished. With love, Nicole. You know what makes me really happy? All of the couples that listen to group chat together.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's great. And there's also another cohort of people around my age that listen at breakfast when they're feeding their kids. So they're like 4-year-olds listening.
Yeah.
Some of the language might not be appropriate, but hey, you're going to learn it anyways.
What the fuck's up, 4-year-olds? Okay, there you have it. Thanks for listening. You know what? If you're still listening, everyone go send D a DM and say, fuck you for missing Wednesday's episode, D, because I'm here and I want him to get the same amount of shit I got. That being said,
since he's not going to listen, he's in a tropical place.
Oh, well, look at that. Everyone talked about, D's busy and he makes it on the pod. Well, look at you now, Kathys. I will be here for the foreseeable future. And thank you for your concern. Thank you for listening. And everyone have a great rest of your week.
Peace.
Bye-bye.